Good afternoon. I'm Caitlin Matson, and this is the Green Room. In the Green Room with me today is the guest conductor for the Wichita Symphony Orchestra concert this weekend, and we welcome her to Kansas, Rei Hotoda. She is the music director of the Fresno Philharmonic. Hello, and thank you so much for being here and speaking with me today.
Thank you, Caitlin. It's great to be here with all of you.
Is this your first time to the Wichita area?
Yes, and this is my debut with the orchestra, so I'm very excited to work with them this week. Yes.
I was reading your bio. You're very busy. You love to guest conduct, I see, and clinician and educate, and you're flying all around the country. And something that also popped up when I was doing a little bit of research is just how many times you yourself have collaborated with the guest artist with the symphony this weekend, Awadagin Pratt. Tell us a bit about those collaborations and specifically collaborating together on Jessie Montgomery's piano concerto.
Yes, well, Awadagin Pratt is an incredible pianist, and I'm thrilled to be sharing the stage with him this weekend with the Wichita Symphony Orchestra. He is a wonderful interpreter of Beethoven, all the classics, but he recently commissioned this work by Jessie Montgomery, an African-American composer, woman composer, who is now the resident composer of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And she is an incredible talent, a triple threat. She's a composer, an incredible composer, as you will hear this weekend in this piano concerto, but she's also a violinist. So she's a performer as well, and an educator. So I find that her music is, it's really, really well written. And the first half of the program is all women composers, two women composers. And these are names that we should know. And I love introducing new music to audiences, even when I'm guest conducting, but especially in Fresno. It's something that I've been doing for the past 5 years as music director. And it's not just because they're women, and we are celebrating Women's History Month this month, but I think every day should be Women's History Month.
I'm going to agree with that.
Yes, and I think that it's important to highlight, yes, women composers during this month, but I do it all the time. And I think it's just that their music is really good, and not just that they're women.
Good. And
Yes.
the Wichita audience, these are familiar names for them. They have actually heard Jessie Montgomery's work with the symphony. Last season they performed, I think, her work Starburst. And then also Jennifer Higdon, most recently, Jennifer Higdon's harp concerto with Yolanda Condenasis, that performance just a couple of years ago. So they're composers that the audience has been exposed to, and how wonderful to kind of carry on with that and add several more layers to it, because the ultimate goal being that we're a champion of these contemporary composers, so much so that they become a household name.
Exactly. And this is wonderful to hear that, because I think it's just about reinforcing that, that relationship that the audience has with these composers by bringing in new works that maybe they haven't heard. This piano concerto was written in 2022, and it was a project that Awadagin explored during the pandemic, and finally came to fruition through this piano concerto. It's a piece written for strings only and piano. And I think that was because of the pandemic. There were, certain limitations of instrumentation on stage. And now we have this incredible piece from that, horrible, pandemic that we all went through and survived. And arts organization mainly, and artists. And I think, some coming from something that's a really negative impactful, and persevering through that, we have this incredible art. So Awadagin has a personal connection to this piece, and I think it's all, first of all, it's in one movement, and it's very short. It's actually 15 minutes with a cadenza. It's an ABA form, so there's a slow middle section, and then the return of the familiar opening section at the end. In the cadenza, Awadagin does this incredible thing where he stands up and plays inside the piano.
What?
Yes. And so this is called prepared piano. And he actually is able to strum the melody within the instrument. So
Yes.
it'll be a really interesting treat for the audience. And the thing is, he is very known for his Beethoven concertos, but also improvising the cadenzas in those Beethoven and Mozart concertos that are very familiar to us. Well, we just did this piece in Fresno, Awadajin and I, and in the dress rehearsal, the cadenza was different. In the performance, the cadenza was different. So I'm expecting something different for the Wichita audiences this weekend. So that's what's so amazing about live performance, is that, you know, we have this moment to share with the audience, with the orchestra, that's very spontaneous, and you have to be there to experience it.
And I'm sure a lot of it depends on the different levels of energy that the performer feels coming from the audience, because, you know, these performances are really just exchanges of energy. It's why we're
Right.
all there. That's the dopamine we crave. And it'll be really fascinating to see and hear what he chooses to do, what he's inspired to show us. You know, very Wichita audience centric cadenza.
Yes, there you go.
Mm. The Wichita Symphony Orchestra concert is this Sunday, March the 26th in Century 2 Concert Hall. It starts at 3 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, there is a concert talk beforehand. There is a deeper dive into the music. We will talk even more with Rei Hotoda, who is the guest conductor, in just a couple of minutes. On the program, not only is the piano concerto featured, but what else is on there?
So Jennifer Higdon opens the concert with All Things Majestic, a work that depicts the mountain ranges of the Grand Teton National Park. And we'll delve into more of that later, but also on the end, what ends the program is the Enigma variations by Elgar, the British composer. So I'm really excited about this program.
We're actually going to hear a little bit of the finale of the Enigma variations. All of us are so madly in love with Nimrod, the variation that has captured all of our hearts. But every single one of those variations is pretty magical. So this is the finale of Edward Elgar's Enigma variations with the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. We'll be back in just another moment. And that is the finale of Sir Edward Elgar's Enigma variations, which ends the Wichita Symphony Orchestra concert this Sunday. It is Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock at Century 2 Concert Hall. This is the Green Room, and I am speaking with a guest conductor this weekend, Rei Hotoda. She comes to us from the Fresno Philharmonic, and she has worked closely with a couple of the composers on our program on Sunday, as well as the guest artist, Awadajin Pratt. We were speaking a bit about All Things Majestic and Jennifer Higdon's work, and exactly what it's all about.
Yes, Caitlin, thank you. I'm so thrilled to perform this work with the Wichita Symphony Orchestra. The All Things Majestic is a reference to the Grand Tetons National Park. And I am an avid hiker. My family and I have traveled all around the country exploring national parks. So this is a real passion of mine, to bring nature and music together. I'm very inspired by nature. It's one of my go-to places when I'm stressed out or need to be inspired in artistically. And I find that being in the woods, in hiking with my family, in the mountains really inspires me. I don't know about you, Caitlin, but when I am driving through California and I see these mountains, or one time during the pandemic, my husband and my daughter and we took our pop-up camper and we drove across the country to Glacier National Park. And we thought, you know what? Since everything's closed, we have all this time, let's do this trip. And, once we got to Glacier and you see these mountains, this mountain range is just off. I was just awestruck. And it just puts me in it, like music, it really transports you into a different part of your brain, your mindset, your heart. And I think this piece, All Things Majestic, really depicts that, to a T. So it's in 4 movements. And the first movement is a Grand Teton. It's called the Teton Range. And Jennifer is a fantastic orchestrator, and she has this incredible sound that she's able to depict these ginormous, mountains, 1,000-foot cliffs using brass instruments. And it opens with this majestic brass chorale, including the winds. And then finally, the strings and the rest of the orchestra contribute into this mountain range. So it's very picturesque, the opening. Then we have the second movement, which is called String Lake. Now, of course, what Jennifer does is there is actually a lake in the Tetons called String Lake. And I've seen pictures of it. I've actually not been to the Tetons. Have you? Have you ever explored the Tetons?
I've never been to the Tetons.
Yeah,
No.
so I'm dying to go now that I know this piece really well. But it's strings only. So not only is she depicting the actual lake, but she's actually using the orchestration in the setting that it's, named after this lake called String Lake. And apparently it's very shallow, so it's great for kids. So the reflection of the lake is extremely vibrant. And, that's the thing that it's really known for. And then the third movement is called Snake River, and it's 7 miles of calm, but then later rapids, and so the winds are really highlighted in this movement. And at the very end of that third movement, you'll just hear the winds kind of disappearing into the distance as you see the lake, the river, kind of going through the mountains. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yes, then the fourth movement is called Cathedrals. And it's really about hiking to me when I hear it. And Jennifer herself is an avid hiker. And you hear these moments where, you're just hiking around the corner, and then all of a sudden you hear these majestic chords from the brass, and you envision these peaks just coming right at you, again, giving you this awestruck feeling. So it's the last movement is really like a journey through the trails.
It's so perfectly described to us. Thank you so much. It will absolutely heighten our experience listening to this for the very first time here in Wichita. And you're so spot on about, music and nature. They fulfill us in almost the exact same way, don't they? I mean, of course,
I think so.
Of course, a piece inspired by nature is going to be really moving for all of us, I think. All right, so the concert ends with Sir Edward Elgar's Enigma Variations. These variations, each one dedicated to a friend of his, and each one unique in their own way, and each one a variation of a particular theme.
Yes, and Caitlin, I have to tell you that I think I've solved the enigma.
Really? Really?
And you have to come on Sunday to the pre-concert lecture to hear my thoughts on this enigma theme and where it is coming from. It's kind of like the Da Vinci Code, you're kind of going through, and I've worked on this piece many, many times, and I keep thinking, okay, what is this enigma theme that Elgar embedded into this piece? It's never ever literally written out, so it's embedded. And Elgar was very much into puzzles and things like that, and the whole piece is like that. It's these variations are depicting, like you said, characters and friends of his, very dear friends of his, but it's not just them, it's about their personalities. And one movement is about the friend's dog, so it's a really personal tribute to all of these friends who have really supported him throughout his life, and who he has had intimate relationships with. One of them right away after the enigma theme is his wife, Alice, who supported him throughout his entire life. She was an older woman, and he 7 years older than he was. And he really relied on her for not just his music and supporting his music, but, during the times that he was depressed or felt that he was not recognized as a composer. And it's interesting because it wasn't until the age of 42 that Elgar really started to come to the forefront as a serious composer. So imagine, going through teaching and slaving away and really trying to make a name for yourself. And finally, in your 40s, you write this piece that's very personal, that's really
Yes.
about your friends and your wife and your publisher who supported you, and finding your own calling that way. And then after that, he wrote the um, the fanfare that that we play all the time at graduations, right? The
Yes.
pomp and circumstance. It was after that, So, and the Elgar concerto, cello concerto that we all hear and know and familiar with, that was written after the variations, the Enigma variations. And so I feel like, he was somebody that really struggled, but really came to his own later in his life, which is really interesting.
It is. There's such an intimacy woven through every single one of these pieces on this program. The intimacy of a composition that was composed during the pandemic when everybody was absolutely terrified and nobody could make music together. And the
Right.
intimacy of nature and Jennifer Higdon's personal relationship with the Tetons. And now we have, probably one of the most intimate pieces now that you have so, wonderfully described it like this by Sir Edward Elgar. Just It'll be a really beautiful afternoon. And to get tickets, you can go to wichitasymphony.org. Again, the Wichita Symphony Orchestra All Things Majestic concert with guest conductor Rei Hotoda and guest pianist Awadajan Pratt. Sunday, 3 o'clock, Century 2 Concert Hall, wichitasymphony.org. Come at 2 o'clock for the concert talk. Thank you so much, Rei, for joining me today. I appreciate you being so generous with your time.
Thank you. Thank you.